Hello and welcome to the first and probably last video on this channel talking about video games. I'm not really that big of a gamer anymore, but Killing Floor 3 has really taken my attention by storm and I've become very passionate about the success about this game. So I'd like to preface that I really do like a lot of the changes that they had made to evolve the series in general from the second game, but I also believe that they could take a few notes from what they did in the past. So this video really is more of a discussion and kind of my thoughts and ideas on how they could improve certain mechanics or possibly add certain things to enhance the experience and make it more engaging for players. I've been active in the Killing Floor Discord, and seeing the devs kind of interact with everyone and kind of respond to feedback had really prompted me to make an in-depth video giving my honest and critical thoughts about how they can improve the game. So let's get right into it. So the first thing on this list that I'm going to be talking about is the Vulcan. Yes, I know you're probably saying, oh, there's bigger issues they could be addressing, but the Vulcan really is a big issue because it kind of invalidates a lot of weapons in this game right now. The weapon has been beyond broken since release and had really neutralized the meta, making many other weapons simply irrelevant. They have went on record to say they're nerfing the weapon's damage and ammo consumption by 33%, but the reason why the weapon is so broken and people gravitate to it no matter what perk or class they're using is because of its utility. It does pretty much everything. As you can see in the clip here, I'm just firing a full charge shot with the Vulcan on the primary fire. It does a lot of damage, but it is a slow charge. So there is punishment if you can't get a shot off in time, if you get surrounded. But unfortunately for the Zeds, you can just quick fire the thing and you can shoot it at a really fast rate. It does massive damage. It still has AoE and you're basically clearing Zeds faster than what a commando could with his weapon. It also has a secondary fire for crowd control. Yes, it has a flamethrower. So basically it has so much utility that it actually makes the secondary fire also useless because the ability to quick fire the primary fire, it really is way more effective to just do that than switch over to the secondary fire and then start shooting a lower damage flamethrower. My solution, remove the ability to quick fire the weapon so that you have to charge the weapon fully before you can shoot the primary fire. This way, it means that you will get punished if you cannot get a shot off in time, if you get surrounded, and it forces you to switch to the secondary fire to actually get crowd control damage and quick damage so you can kill the smaller Zeds. When paired with this 33% ammo consumption increase for the primary fire, it really forces players to switch to the secondary mode to kill the smaller Zeds in order to save ammo, and in turn this will send the weapon back into its Firebug niche because the only person who's really super effective with flamethrowers is Firebug, so many people will drop the weapon for another weapon to be able to kill trash, so it's going to be a less prominent dominant weapon in the entire field of this game. The next topic is damage numbers and how they're currently useless and how to fix that. So for anyone who doesn't know, this game allows weapon modding, which means you can add attachments to the weapon. Each attachment comes with its own kind of stats to alter the weapon's performance. But basically every weapon has this big damage number that you can see being changed depending on what attachments you add or take off. For example, you can take a look at this modification I made for the Pyre. I named it Hawk Moon because of my old days back in Destiny 1. I love that hand cannon. I managed to increase the damage by over 150 damage, which is nearly double the base damage it normally does. That sounds like a lot, but in reality, we never really know how good it's actually going to perform because the health of Zeds is never disclosed and there's no way to test it on them without going into an actual game and trying it out then. I like to play Hell on Earth difficulty because I have all but the ninja class leveled up to level 30, so I was trying to test it and I actually died trying to test it on the Scrake, seeing how many shots it would take to kill him. My solution, allow us to test the damage numbers on Zeds. I pulled a clip from Stellar Blade where they have like this nice white room training area and you can like spawn in an enemy and do test combos and stuff. They also don't have damage numbers in this game because it's irrelevant. They could put the trader pod over on the left side or something so you can switch your weapon, and maybe they could even put the mod customization center over on the right. So in Killing Floor 3, it's really relevant to see these damage numbers and damage over time effect just so you can see how these weapons are affecting the Zeds after you mod your weapon and see if maybe your modifications were really that effective or not. For example, I don't like to mod any of my Firebug weapons to do more fire damage because I don't know if fire damage is even good or if it does a lot of damage. So I always go for more burst damage kind of mods. But if I was able to test it in like a gray room with a flesh pound or something in the middle and seeing how much damage it takes to kill a flesh pound with my Hawk Moon, I could see, oh, now it takes only 4 shots instead of 6 shots. It was effective. I know they already have something like this because you can see it in the perk demonstration videos where it's just a gray room and they have the Zeds in it. Just please give us that. I know you can do it, Tripwire. Next up is the medic class. I'll be talking about a few things in the medic class, starting with the biomorphic projector. The weapon really does suck. I know that they have this new buff coming where it's going to increase the healing rate by 0.5 damage or whatever points. That's not really going to help how the gun feels. It's just really unsatisfying to use. The tracking on the laser is very janky. Sometimes it just switches to other players that you didn't intend to have healing on. The laser, when it's locked on, looks really bad too. The ammo consumption is really high for how fast it heals. A good solution is to take a page out of Killing Floor 2's heal thrower. I know that they definitely made this gun based off the heal thrower, but they just didn't want to copy it. That's okay. I feel like they should change the primary mode to be more like the heal thrower, have a splash heal, and then maybe for the damage side, just keep the laser, maybe clean it up a little bit. I feel like that would make it feel like a more variety kind of packed gun instead of having two different lasers, one for damage, one for healing. My only suggestion is if you do make this change happen, I feel like make the damage for the healing side really, really low so that it doesn't overpower or outshine the damage mode so that you actually still have to use it if you need to defend yourself. Now let's talk about the healing system in general. I know a lot of people will agree with me when I say that it's a step back to have removed the infinite healing darts and limited syringes. As of right now, Medic is very unfun to play, mostly because on harder difficulties, you just run out of heal darts very fast, making you effectively useless unless you're using the tier 4 weapon, which basically makes it the only viable gun for late game. Regarding syringes, I know Tripwire will be very stubborn on this because they built the entire game around those deployable consumables like the ammo bag and the medic bag, but I really do think they should at least revert the medic bag so that you have infinite syringes, maybe heal at 20 HP each like how it was in the old games. In the old games, you were rewarded for healing other people by cutting your own syringe recharge time in half, which means that you kind of get penalized for healing yourself rather than helping other people. And that kind of meant that even if you weren't the medic, you could still help out, and it kind of created this team effort with each other. If they decide not to make the move on infinite syringes, at least I feel very strongly about making the syringes rechargeable, because the gun is basically useless for medic as soon as you run out of syringes. Relying on ammo bags to get them back during the round and then also having a limit on the ammo bags just makes it super unfun, and there's just too much micromanagement going on for medic. Now, let's talk about the weapon feel, hipfire, shooting, and the Firebug class. They're all kind of related here. This one's going to be a little bit longer because this is the meat and potatoes of the game. I've seen many people complain about how hard it is to hipfire headshots compared to the previous games. Now, there might be a lot of reasons that I'm not aware of, but the biggest reason why some weapons feel worse to hipfire than others is because of the tracer round size and how fast the bullet is traveling. Let's take a quick comparison between two guns, both in Killing Floor 2 and 3. They're the most similar. In Killing Floor 2, when I shoot the MAC-10, you can clearly see the tracer round and where it is going. It's like a glowing bullet almost. Now let's look at the VSP. The tracer round size is very small. It is accurate to what the gun would be firing. It is a small bullet, but this is a video game. You need more visual feedback. As you can see, I'm now fighting a flesh pound and all these other enemies on screen. Things are going on. I'm shooting my gun, and I can barely see the tracer bullets. I have no idea where I'm shooting, and they appear invisible almost. The reason why this is such a problem is because we subconsciously use that tracer round as a guide for where to place the next shot. A lot of the guns in Killing Floor 3 have this problem, but some of them don't. There's the IR Brimstone, which have really large projectile bullets, and also the Scar is one off the top of my head, which is really easy to place shots because, again, the tracer rounds are really big there. Now, this directly ties into Firebug, as I feel she has suffered the most from this design change. A lot of people have complained that the Firebug class feels like all guns have the fire effect just turn on and then fire just appears like magic. Why do people think that? Well, I think it's due to the projectile speed and how the fire actually propagates. Thankfully, Killing Floor 2 and Killing Floor 3 have two of the same weapons for a direct comparison. Take a look at the Dragon's Breath shotgun in Killing Floor 2. When you shoot the weapon, you can see the projectile is much slower and it's very clearly glowing orange. When it hits the target, the fire propagates outwards into a large mass of fire within a few milliseconds. There's some spit animation too as well. That small difference in projectile speed, visibility, and fire propagation helps sell the effect that the gun really is producing fire as an incendiary round, and it's almost like peppering the Zeds with fire. Now let's take a look at Killing Floor 3. This is the same Dragon's Breath shotgun reimagined for 2091. As you can see, when I shoot the gun, the bullet immediately had hit the target as if it's hit scan, and at the same moment fire appears. There's a spark effect when the gun shoots, but everything happens at such an instantaneous rate that it feels unnatural. So what should they do? Well, I don't know how hard this is to code, but by taking a page out of the second game, they should change the pellets to be more like projectiles and slow the projectile speed just a bit, maybe a few frames, so that we can see the visual feedback when glowing pellets hit the target. They may also have to tweak the fire effects to have some fire spit kind of effect and have it propagate more from inwards to outwards so that it actually looks and feels like you're shooting a fire gun. Overall, in general, I think that all weapons can benefit from having larger tracer rounds, much like the second game, to increase visual feedback when popping those heads. Now, the last major thing I'd like to talk about is the ninja class. I love how they opted to make him a more skill-oriented class, requiring more precise timing with parrying attacks. In Killing Floor 2, it was pretty liberal with the timing. You could just kind of parry at any time and get a block, but he mainly suffers in multiplayer for a few reasons. This guy's the last class I need to level, so I don't have much experience with him, but I was having a conversation with someone in the Killing Floor 3 Discord about parry mechanics being frustrating in multiplayer. Some interactions online feel like you're being cheated out of a parry because the timing requires such precise timing, and also it seems as if the hitbox need to be very precise in terms of how you aim your parry towards the attack. It can't just be any direction parry like kind of in Killing Floor 2. It has to be precise and timed even more precisely compared to the second game, so it creates a really hard time for people online, especially with all the server issues, to actually have enjoyable moments with multiplayer. Single player seems to have very little issues, at least with me, but my band-aid fix right now, I feel like they should at least make the parry window 360 degrees, because there are times where it seems like the Gorefast or someone with longer limbs will hit you and their weapon will actually go beyond the parry window hitbox and it will hit behind your character. So it's like they're hitting you from behind even though they're in front of you, and then basically you're not getting the parry, you're taking damage. I feel like to fix this temporarily until maybe the servers stabilize a little better, just make the parry window 360 degrees, so at least you still have to be timing it correctly, but you can be a little bit more liberal with how you're aiming it. Now, there's a few small things on my wish list that I like to see happen for this game, and the first thing is first-person spectating. I love watching the Last Man Standing clutch a wave solo on Hell on Earth, but watching it in third person looks infinitely worse than the first person animations, because the third person animations just look kind of janky. Another wish is to have the flesh pounds scream more often, kind of like the previous games. There's this great guy who made a recent comparison of the 3 flesh pounds in 1, 2, and 3 Killing Floor. And it really shows the evolution of how he's kind of screamed a little less in each game. But I feel like that's what the Flesh Pound is all about, to be imposing, to be the threat that you need to deal with immediately or else he will kill you. In Killing Floor 2, he even shook the ground as he was running towards you with these loud stomps. I felt that was great. But in Killing Floor 3, he really only makes noise when he starts to rage, and then when he's chasing you, he's basically silent. It's only kind of like those meat cutter knives spinning around. I do like that noise, but it needs to be blended with some screaming, and I would love to see some screen shake too as he's running behind you. It'd be great. This is something they probably are planning to add in the future anyway, but I'd like to see animated weapon skins or skins that change the appearance of the gun, something like in the finals. No one really talks about it, but in Killing Floor 2, they had some pretty goofy stuff in there, and despite it being a grittier, darker experience, I thought these additions fit it surprisingly well, because it really is just a horde shooter, you're having fun. It just fits the overall feeling as the player just playing the game relaxing. And the last thing, I don't know if this is a bug, if it's intended or not, but I want to be able to see what people have named their guns when I spectate them. Right now, it always just says custom followed by name of gun, which kind of sucks. I want to see what people name it, because I always like to put a lot of time naming my weapons, and it would be cool to see what other people think of their weapons. Anyway, that was my in-depth video for what I'd like to see changed, added in the game in the future. I really hope the devs do see this and maybe consider some things, especially with the Vulcan. That would be great. And the medic, Firebug as well. Actually, a lot of these things. So hopefully they see it and maybe they can, I don't know, take my suggestion. Thank you and bye-bye.